Hello everyone and welcome back to Serious Sunday. I'm your host Luke, and this is the show where I talk about video games and stuff. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about Friday the 13th, the game, and more appropriately, its development studio, IllFonic. I've become aware of a fair amount of vitriol that seems to be flowing in IllFonic's direction about the current state of Friday the 13th, some spurious claims about the game's level of completeness, including throwing around terms that IllFonic's detractors don't seem to understand, like the definition of an alpha, and even accusations that IllFonic might be abandoning the project with the recent spotlight on their new title, Dead Alliance. I'd like to say that I understand to a certain extent the perspective of the player, especially the player that's sunk money into the game, inexpensive though it may be in comparison to some other multiplayer games of its scope, but I see a large number of flaws in both the logic and fundamental understanding of game development on the whole, and even ignorance of the promises made about the game in the first place. So while I'm the first to admit that the internal workings and related challenges of a studio is neither valid nor should we expect it to be in forming a counter-argument against upset customers, no matter how wrong or disingenuous those complaints might be, I even made a separate video a few weeks ago on that very topic, I thought that I'd still probably make a futile attempt at describing what I presume to be the current situation there from my own experience in 5 game development studios of various sizes and scopes. I hope to offer up one explanation as to why the game is in the state that it's currently in by going over its releases to date, and through doing so, hope that I might be able to do my part to help in calming the misinformed histrionics surrounding the game. And once I'm finished with this video, you're welcome to call me an apologist or a hack, or to call my own competence as a game developer into question. That's your prerogative, just as it is for you to exercise your hate on for IllFonic. I should note, though, that I'm in no way personally involved with IllFonic, and to my knowledge, have never even met anyone from IllFonic or Gun Media. I do know Christian Cantamessa, who was the lead writer on Dead Alliance, but to my knowledge, he's unrelated to Friday the 13th. Disclosure, such as it is, made. Now on with the show. Now if you're a regular watcher of this channel, you'll already be aware that my co-hosts and I love Friday the 13th. We're having a blast in the game and perhaps play it on an infrequent enough basis that the content that's available to us remains fresh and interesting, and since we play it with friends, we don't worry about cheaters or unreliable connections. Please use that nugget of information as a sort of disclaimer. I personally don't engage with the quick match system at all, since I prefer to play multiplayer with people that I know. To me, getting my ass handed to me by a friend is far more fun than someone I've never met and never care to. That's what ultimately made me play less and less Overwatch. Bad teammates, bad enemies, and the anonymity of the internet are a bad mix for curmudgeonly old Luke. So with that marked lack of first-person experience of the current state of the game's quick match and random multiplayer environment, I can't really remark as to the claims by some that the open match multiplayer of the game feels buggy. In my personal experience though, we've encountered some bugs, and at least one bug that caused a major hiccup in our gameplay, though repro has been difficult. It's been an overly solid gameplay experience, for us. But how complete is the game? I've heard it feels like a late alpha, ridiculous as that is. But does it? As someone who's made games for a living and understands the definition of an alpha, beta, feature completion, and especially feature completion for version 1.0 and other point releases, I'd personally say that the game feels like it's, from a feature perspective, where it needs to be in order to call itself the finished game that it is. Note that I say finished, not flawless. I've gotten flack for this in the past before, so I fully expect the same this time around, but like it or not, games are buggy on release. There's very few ways around it, especially multiplayer games, and especially multiplayer games made by a 20 to 30 man studio. But there are a lot of people who don't really seem to get that, and though I know the thought that such opinions could possibly be changed is probably idiotic on my end, I hope that knowing a little bit about development cycles will explain how I can say that the game looks perfectly healthy to me, and why the fact that IllFonic's working in tandem with their new title, Dead Alliance, doesn't worry me at all. In order to understand release schedules, though, the first thing you need to know about is development cadence. A cadence is basically the pace in which you release milestones. It might seem like a lot of time, but a monthly cadence is super aggressive, we're looking at 10 days maximum of feature development, a week of bug fixing, and a week of verification, submission, and release. If everything goes right, which it rarely does, double those numbers for a 2-month cadence. But let's assume that IllFonic runs fast and hard at a monthly release cadence. Their releases to date back that up, if not show them at moving an even more frightening pace. The game launched on May 26th, and we're all aware of the server woes that it had. If you aren't, I did a video which I'll tag here. The server fix was rolled out May 29th, and player database issue was resolved a few days later. That was version 1.01, or a point release, as it's called. 1.02 came June 2nd, right on the heels of the server and database fixes, with matchmaking optimization, a number of audio updates, and 18 bug fixes, including resolving some map issues, problems with achievements, some hair physics problems, and some animation weirdness. 2 weeks later, June 16th, 1.03. More matchmaking optimization, a map update to facilitate more environmental kills, some security updates, animation improvements, and a tuning update to make player killing more detrimental. This release also included 30 listed bug fixes, including fixes to some known exploits, party issues, animation issues, audio issues, and so on and so forth. This was the last point release to date, but there was a content release on June 23rd when they rolled out the 8-bit Jason skin, as well as new clothing and some crash fixing, and another hotfix on June 28th to further chase and fix crashes, a memory leak, more achievement fixes, and fixing the Packanack roof glitch. After that, the point releases quieted down a bit, but we do see the release of the PS4 version of the game patch on July 3rd, and Xbox One last Wednesday, July 26th. This tells me that the programming team at the very least have been devoted to supporting console patching over the month, while likely another point release is incoming. What was happening with the Xbox One patch release, I can't honestly say, aside from that the patch was rejected, apparently due to a persistent memory leak issue gleaned from combing the game's forums. 2 months is a very short time from the perspective of game development, especially in tracking down all use cases of certain exploits or finding the source of bugs. 1 month from our last point release, with evidence that the team has been scrambling to solve a memory leak issue in order to release the Xbox One patch, seems like the usual snafu. The pace of fixes we have seen is par for the course, and with Dead Alliance shipping soon, I wouldn't be surprised if some team resources are likely going to be on deck for that project as well, where there's a lull in development for Friday the 13th. You don't always need all of your art team, or even all of your programmers on deck, even when you're doing additional feature development. But why doesn't Dead Alliance concern me? To start, Dead Alliance has been in development for a long time already, under the title Moving Hazard. As likely as not, they're sharing resources across both projects, but generally speaking, 2 teams will be dedicated to their specific projects. As a co-development project with PsyOp Games as well, and without concrete knowledge of what part of development IllFonic is even responsible for, we don't even know what that split is. We do, however, know that IllFonic has stated that they have a second satellite office that they opened recently, specifically with the purpose of supporting Friday the 13th. All in a statement made in response to the recent mudslinging. In a final note, though, about the state of the game's completeness, there is the contentious issue of the single-player mode, which has been brought up numerous times as an explanation as to how and why the game is unfinished. But we already knew the single-player mode wasn't going to be in the game at launch. It was never promised that it would be. On October 13th of last year, we received the announcement of single-player. The game's release, which was slated for autumn of last year, was also pushed back to what ultimately became the end of May in order to get the game in a state where it would be able to support both single-player as well as multiplayer. And believe me, there's more to single-player mode than just add bots. And that the single-player would be released in the summer of 2017. I even made a video myself about the delay and the single-player mode, which I'll link above, that specifically states that. Check around the 4.25 minute mark. Now, when in summer are we supposed to get the single-player mode? I honestly don't know. It could be delayed, which I presume we'll hear about if it's delayed enough, but as yet, there's still time left in the summer, so bitch though we can, at no point was it ever set in stone that we'd have it by the end of July, and it was outright stated that it wouldn't be ready by launch. Yeah, I have no idea if this video will help anyone form a more informed opinion on the whole topic. I honestly feel like the videos defending developers in this very manner may not even be entirely constructive, but I don't like seeing developers get slammed for complete misinformation. I've already lost a lot of respect for a few other YouTubers for this very reason. But that's enough of a rant for now. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this and that you at least walked away knowing something new. Whether I changed your opinion on things, or honestly, even if this video is going to get watched very much, I have no idea, but it felt like something I needed to make, so there you go. Thank you very much. Have a good one, and take care.